that will grow the market. We've designed some things already on this that we haven't released yet, but we're considering releasing, which would include, and maybe we should talk about something afterward, but a pill dispenser right in the middle of the unit. We designed it. And it kind of acts like a giant Pez dispenser in essence. So it keeps moving up and popping out. And the nice thing about this as well is this is only a concept design we have right now, but there's no reason why when it was 2 o'clock, time to take your medication, that the lights couldn't go off to remind you, and then of course you could confirm you took your medication, and then you could potentially have the same software interface that the TabSafe folks have. There's also ports in the back for expansion of devices, and I think other products like this that you'll see in the future will also follow this model. So we have USB ports here, and there's actually some serial ports in the bottom, so you can attach peripherals and connect that here as a data channel to the other side, as well as I mentioned the mounting points here, so you could mount them on the inside of the system here. I think the last thing I'll mention is how this system is designed, and I think others as well in the future, to be very integratable with other technologies and other devices. So actually everyone on this panel, I think we could potentially work together, listening to your products. I think that's important because that's something that really needs to happen going forward, is you can't have all these point products that are working in their own isolation. You need to have interoperability and integration with a smart home and with different robotic assistant devices and pill dispensers and this kind of thing. We're certainly following that path, and I think many other vendors coming to the marketplace with similar products will do the same thing. Okay, well, that's all I have, so back to you, David.
Thank you, Brad, and you took us right where we would like to go in terms of hearing from each of our panelists. I'd like to give you a quick heads up. We only have time for a few questions, but in the last 2 minutes, I'd like to come back to the panel and have each of you do what Brad just did. Speak to where, in 30 seconds, where we see your part of the field moving in terms of the next 2 to 5 years. I think it really is a critical issue to keep our eye on the future as opposed to where we are right now. But we've just had some excellent presentations that obviously show how thoughtful and programs and products are advancing in terms of being user-friendly, whether it be for family informal caregivers, whether it be for providers who are working with older adults, the silver community, but for older adults themselves. I think very interestingly, I was very impressed with how all thoughtful each of the programs are, each of the products are in working around care processes to help with independence or improving the outcomes or well-being of the groups they're working with. But as Brad just closed with, I think that interoperability and integration is central now as we move ahead, as well as looking at the way analytics will drive many of the advances that these excellent products have right now. But with that, we'd like to open it to you. Please, questions for the panel. Right over here, please.
I'm interested in how each of you have approached the idea or the problem I would see in terms of trying to get the consumer to spend these dollars versus trying to get the insurance industry to provide coverage for these types of things. In particular, the long-term care insurance industry, which I'm involved in, and it sounds like you're trying to service a lot of them to a major degree, has provisions in their policies for things, and mostly they're oriented towards like ramps and other types of things that allow you to stay in your home. But they're flexible enough in terms of their provisions that they could provide for robotics or other types of things that would keep somebody out of the assisted living facility. It'd be unlikely to pay for something, say, inside of the facility to provide it, but I'm sure that a lot of these things are designed primarily to keep people at home.
Open to the panel.
Okay, I'll start. Well, it seems to me that until the technologies like that truly get in the hands of the people that are accountable for care, who have a clear value proposition, you're absolutely right. People will not, it's really hard on a private pay type situation to adopt certain of these technologies. Healthcare obviously is a very expensive thing, or at least costs a lot. I'm not sure it's that expensive. But I think that has to happen. These technologies have to be embraced by people who are actually have lives under their stead.
Fred?
Well, I guess one of the areas that we would like to see, we've had some discussions, some interesting discussions at this show about some doctors and physicians actually doing follow-up care and again, I'm not a doc, so I don't want to speak to really remote diagnostics, but remote assistance for follow-up care rather than having some of the seniors have to go back to the doctors for follow-up post-op checks to see them do them remotely using more video communications. Now, it's up to the doctor whether or not they feel they can do that, but they do get reimbursement for that, but it does depend on the doctors adopting the technology, from one sense that I see.
The only thing that I would add is I think that I'm beginning to look at the marketplace as though it's really almost two distinct populations based on funding sources. So for instance, Medicaid pays for 70% of all nursing home care in this country. And in that regard, 13 states will pay for, let's say in my case, medication monitoring, sometimes even the phone line to connect them, because if you can keep somebody home, again, 25% do that, you can actually have a pretty good, I think we just lost, oh, okay. So anyway, so you see that. On the other side is the senior housing arena, not the HUD subsidized housing, but the housing that we're paying $3,000 to $4,000 a month for. And when you compare those kinds of value equations as to how much I'm spending, I did a senior pharmacy for assisted living communities, and I found it to be the biggest shock to people when they moved in was once they moved in and paid $3,000, then they paid $300 to $500 a month to have somebody then deliver the meds. So if you're in your home and you want a caregiver to come in even once a day, it's a couple $100 a month. So I think that that's where the value propositions will kind of win over.
And I'll just add, before we'll have time for one more question, and that is Steve's list of where health reform is going, all the different new methods that formats that we're looking at, changes in our systems of reimbursement and accountability for care are going to lead and be driven by ways to measure and support reimbursement. But we do have those two sides, the private pay side of this area and then the public side. I believe we're even out of time for one more question, so I'd like to turn quickly to the panel. I do want them to give us the info that they would like to share with us in terms of where they see each of their areas going for the next 2 to 5 years. So,
okay,
please,
if I start
Steve.
real quick. My take on it is, and this is dynamic, this is the fun of it. I get up every day, I get more inputs, and things are changing in front of our eyes. Technology is available. But I see, really, I speak to caregivers all the time at every level, professional or non-professionals. And what I think people are really looking for is not the individual technologies, it's the actionable data, things that they need to do without all the noise. So for instance, I'm a doc. I don't want to see every blood pressure from your mom, but I do want to see the couple that would be important. So I think what we're going to see in the next 2 to 5 years, I think what we're going to see, Mom? I'm done.
Yeah, on that, I'll just jump right in after that. But I guess where we see things going is actually I'm very excited about the opportunities we see to integrate more capabilities and try to do more remote work with medicine telemetry and information to try and reduce cost. Even medical records, they want to go to more paperless records, but if seniors are going to have paperless records, they got to have a way to get to them. So hopefully we can play a part in those roles.
I'd say from our perspective, what we see is enabling these kinds of devices to communicate with other body-worn sensors, other medical devices around the body to really start to increase the utility. And to the point that was just made, it's not necessarily about delivering every piece of data, but trying to set up thresholds and parameters so when there's data that needs to be taken action on, that's very clear. And so we're looking at the idea of embedding these devices in addition to cellular capabilities, but with short-range radios that can then communicate with a variety of different devices on and around the body to enable that kind of capability.
Charlie?
Well, I kind of like the notion that you see it in Lori Orloff's slide in the lower right. I think a tremendous technology would be one that would allow seniors to remain productive, or at least in their mind productive, whether it's to take care of themselves, to remotely babysit their great-grandchildren, to visit shut-ins through their church thing. But that sort of technology, I think, would be a killer app, and I've given a lot of thought to it. Haven't come up with anything quite yet, but I think that's an important thing.
Well, that's with a great ending, and would you please join me in thanking our panelists for a great session?
You got the big laugh. Nice work.
I think this room is haunted.